Welcome to Trader TV, your insight into trading for professional investors. I'm Dan Barnes. We're currently looking at the EMEA Trading Conference, which is going to be happening on the 23rd of June. And joining me to do this are Rebecca Healy and Matt Coop, the co-chairs for the EMEA Regional Committee for FIX. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dan. Good to be here.
Hi, Dan. Thanks for having us.
The conference is going to be virtual this year, but people are starting to head back to the office. Rebecca, how are we addressing that topic at the conference this year?
That is actually going to be the opening panel because we know it's front and centre for everybody's minds. I think the challenge last year was just actually making sure that technology works, that people could continue trading. Now we've got the much bigger issue of if this is a permanent change to how we work, what does that look like? Will people only go in the office 3 days a week? Is that going to rotate? How do you manage your teams? What does that mean just even in terms of visitors? Are you going to have testing on site? How are people going to go to conferences in person? One of the reasons why we're going virtual again this year is because we want to make sure that we've got maximum attendance and people are able to attend. But I think there's also much more important issues around mental health. And I think this is one of the things that COVID has brought up. And it's just how do we operate as an industry? And one of the things we are looking at is how global may potentially become more local in order to be able to manage sort of the longer working hours that we all seem to suffer from.
And of course, this year, we also have some very major market structural changes coming on with the review of MiFID II. Matt, how are you seeing market structure being addressed in the conference this year?
I really hope that we can actually give some questions and also some answers and looking at actually how we can structure some of the challenges we're facing. Because when you're looking at market structure change, it's critical that we also understand how we're going to implement this and how we set data standards. Because if we don't have good data standards, how can we track and change to see whether the market structural change has been effective or not? There's obviously been a lot going on. We've got a lot of coverage in terms of if you're looking at STO and equivalence across multiple jurisdictions and how that's played out with liquidity. There have also been challenges with the derivative trading obligation as well. Also, we've got a double hit in terms of market structural changes from an EMEA perspective, where we've got UK and EU changes. Are we going to see convergence or divergence? If we have divergence, how do we implement that? How do we work that? How does this all flow into your data standards? It's critical that we understand that. And I think the conference is a perfect time to be able to pull this together and get the industry in a virtual format to do that, because now's the time to have this debate.
Rebecca, last year we brought ESG into the fold. That's going to be repeating again this year as well, isn't it? With some questions about how that's going to be affecting market structure.
It's becoming much more critical to discuss within sort of the trading environment. I mean, there's 86% in a recent survey that we did have seen an increase in ESG factors in the investments. That throws up a host of new challenges, not least of which, how do regulators manage this globally? Financial services is global. So there has to be standards. And I think this is where FIX can potentially play a role just around how there are global industry standards that participants can actually follow and adhere to, because we've got regulatory divergence already coming from Europe and UK. But the speed of adoption at ESG and actually people beginning to understand what is green. Take fishing, for example. That was once seen as sort of relatively green industry per se, but it's now second largest contributor to ocean plastic. So that's going to become a toxic asset. And I think what we're starting to look at is ways in which the industry can engage with the obligation to become carbon neutral by 2030, but in a practical way. And that means access to better data, access to reliable data, and better standards. And that's really where FIX comes into its own.
Those are all very big questions that need answering. And on the 23rd of June, we'll get that at the FIX conference. Thanks very much.
Look forward to seeing people there.
Thanks, Dan.
I'd like to thank Matt and Rebecca for their insights today, and of course you for watching. To catch up on our other shows or to subscribe to our newsletter, go to tradertv.net.